If you've ever ridden an e-bike, or even thought about buying one, you've probably heard this debate, hub drive or mid-drive. Well, the thing is, it's not just about where the motor sits. It's about how the bike rides, climbs, and feels when you're out on real roads. And this isn't one of those simple, this is better answers. Each has its own purpose, and they're not competing against each other. Both work well in their own way. So now, let's find out which one fits you best. When we talk about e-bike motors, performance is often the first thing that comes to mind. How much power do they deliver? How do they feel when you're riding? Let's start with hub drive motors. These motors are typically integrated directly into the hub of either the front or rear wheel. Think of it like this. The motor is directly spinning the wheel. This design is very straightforward, and it means you get immediate power delivery. When you hit the throttle or start pedaling, that power goes straight to the wheel, giving you a direct, almost raw push. Now, this direct power delivery has its perks. For instance, if you're riding a bike like the Rad Power Bike's Rad Rover 6 Plus with its powerful rear hub motor, you'll notice that instant acceleration, especially from a standstill. It's fantastic for cruising on flat terrain, or for those quick bursts of speed in urban environments. However, there's a flip side. Because the hub motor operates independently of your bike's gears, it's essentially a single-speed system in terms of motor output. This means that on steep inclines, it can struggle. It has to work harder, generating more heat, and its efficiency can drop significantly. You might find yourself relying more on your own leg power to get up those really challenging hills. Contrast that with mid-drive motors. These motors are positioned in the center of the bike, typically where the crankset is. This strategic placement allows the motor to drive the bike's chain, working with your bike's existing gearing system. Imagine a bike like a Trek Rail Plus, equipped with a Bosch Performance Line CX motor. When you shift gears, the motor's power output also adapts to that gear. This means you can use lower gears for climbing steep hills, allowing the motor to operate at its optimal RPM, delivering maximum torque and efficiency. It's like having a built-in transmission for your motor, so it has that significant advantage in terms of hill climbing ability and overall torque. However, this also means that the motor's power is routed through your bike's drivetrain, the chain, cassette, and derailleur. This can lead to increased wear and tear on these components, especially if you're not mindful of shifting gears appropriately. It's the trade-off. Once you climb, you use more battery. Beyond raw power, efficiency and range are critical factors for any e-bike rider. Hub motors work fine on flat roads, but they don't shift, so they stay locked in 1 RPM, draining your battery more quickly under load. It's like driving a car in a single high gear all the time. You'll burn more fuel to get the same job done. Take the Lectric XP 3.0, for example. It does fine on flat ground, like you can get 40 to 45 miles range, but if your daily route includes hills, that range starts to drop fast. The motor can't adjust itself, so it works harder and drains the battery quicker. Now, mid-drive motors handle this much better. Since they use the bike's gears, the motor can stay in its best power zone no matter what kind of terrain you're riding on. So instead of wasting energy, it keeps things smooth and efficient. Look at the Specialized Turbo Levo. With the 2.2 motor, it's a great example. Because the motor works with your pedaling and shifts, you get more range out of every charge, and that makes a big difference over time. You'll definitely notice it. Fewer recharges, longer rides, and a bike that just feels more responsive. However, it's not entirely one-sided. Mid-drives put more pressure on your chain and cassette, so even though you're getting better range, you might need to swap out those parts more often. So, it depends on how and where you ride. It's a balance you need to consider based on your riding style and priorities. No one wants to spend more time fixing their e-bike than actually riding it. So let's talk about what it takes to keep these motors running long-term. Well, hub drives, they're usually simpler by design. Since it is tucked inside the wheel, there aren't many moving parts exposed to dirt or weather. That helps cut down on maintenance. For example, the Ride 1UP 700 series uses a sealed rear hub motor, which means it's pretty well protected and doesn't need much attention. And if something goes wrong, you're often just replacing the whole wheel, which can be quicker than dealing with small internal fixes. But that doesn't mean it's all easy. When you get a flat on a rear hub e-bike, changing the tire is a bit more of a chore. The motor adds weight, and the wiring makes the job more hands-on. So while the motor may not need much, the wheel itself could need more frequent care. On the flip side, mid-drive motors are tied directly to your bike's chain and gears. So, you'll probably need to clean and lube things more often, and plan for earlier replacements. So, while the drivetrain might require more attention, other aspects of maintenance can be simpler. Price is a big deal, and the differences between hub and mid drives definitely show up in the price. If you're on a budget, hub drives usually make more sense. Since the motors are easier to manufacture and don't need special bike frames, companies can keep costs low. That's why bikes like the Aventon Pace 500.3 can offer solid features at a more accessible price. It's a great pick if you just want an easy ride for commuting or cruising without dropping a ton of cash. And the mid-drives are packed with sensors and precision controls, and they usually need frames built specifically for them. So when you look at premium bikes like the Specialized Turbo Levo, or anything running Bosch, Shimano, or Yamaha systems, you'll see a much steeper price tag. So if you're looking for pure value and simplicity, hub drives win on cost. But if you're planning to ride harder, or want a bike that feels more like an extension of your legs, mid-drives justify their price with smarter power and better performance. If you're into tweaking your ride, there are a few things to keep in mind. Since hub motors are built into the wheel, swapping it out usually means rebuilding or replacing the whole wheel, so you won't get many options, but you can still upgrade the battery or display on some models, like the Juiced Rip Current S, but the drive system itself isn't very flexible. Now you can't swap the mid-drive motor either, but because they work with the bike's drivetrain, you get more room to upgrade your chain, cassette, or chainring. If you're riding something like the Canyon Spectral on with a Shimano EP8, it's easy to fine-tune the gearing to match your terrain. Plus, big names like Bosch and Yamaha support a wider range of parts, which makes customizing easier in the long run. At the end of the day, it all comes down to how and where you ride. If you're sticking to flat roads, cruising around town, or just want a simple, affordable way to get around, a hub drive will do the job without much fuss. It's straightforward, low maintenance, and gets you moving. But if you're after better efficiency, hill climbing power, or you plan to carry loads or tackle trails, a mid-drive brings more to the table. It's more efficient, better balanced, and just feels more connected to how you ride. Yes, mid-drives cost more and need a bit more care, but the performance speaks for itself. So think about your routes, your riding style, and your priorities. One motor isn't better than the other. It's about finding the right match for what you actually need. Thanks for watching. Share your opinion in the comment. If you found it helpful, give it a like and subscribe for more bike videos.